my quilting friends. My name is Leah Day, and welcome to episode 58 of the podcast. So this is just going to be a general update podcast. I have a really long introduction because I've got so many things to share with you. So many things are going on right now. And I'm also feeling pretty tired for various reasons. So I didn't want to take on a great quilting debate, and I'm kind of in between projects. So for various reasons, this is just going to be a more kind of a journal entry of what's going on right this second, and also a little update on my goals and my word for the year, which is challenge. And we are getting into the halfway point of the year. When we hit June, we're about halfway through the year, and this is a really good time to check in on whatever goals and aspirations that you had back in January. You know, we had that, big push right around the new year to have those resolutions and things. And then usually people stop talking about them and let it all kind of die down by about halfway through the year. So I really like to keep that present and continue to be addressing that and working forward, because if you drop your goals, then you will not achieve them. They do not magically land in your lap. And that's a lot of what this is actually going to be about, because a lot of my long-term goals have been coming to fruition this month, which feels really, really good. And it's good timing because May and June are kind of the slow months for quilting businesses. So that feels awesome. So first thing, thank you so much for your comments and emails, all of the wonderful messages that I received last week about the post on copyright with Heather Kubiak. So I was wearing a big floppy hat, and everybody wants a hat tutorial. So I wanted to show you the flowers that I picked out. And yes, as soon as I finish this podcast, I'm going to be cutting these up and gluing them onto a hat. So be looking forward to that. Probably come out Saturday or Sunday, maybe a weekend video for that. And I grabbed my hot glue gun, and so that way I can, sit up at the table and be gluing that together. And honestly, I realized that the Crafty Cottage was in kind of a state, and you can see this pile around me, all around my new treadle machine. And I really need to clean up. So if you hear me rustling around, then that's what I'm doing, because this has just gotten a little ridiculous. What it was is, I got the new machine, the new Everstone Sparrow 20, and then I just pulled out a lot of projects and had all these cool ideas. And I brought it all out to the Crafty Cottage, with just great expectation of being able to do so many different things, and then didn't have time for any of it. And it ends up feeling really overwhelming. So at this stage, I'm kind of like, all right, this stuff needs to go back in the house. I need to pile it all up and schlep it all back in the house and pull one project out at a time, bring it out here and work on it, and then take it back inside. Now, the Crafty Cottage really doesn't have very much storage space. And when I walk in, I like this whole area to be clear and clean. So it's like, I can walk in and it just feel relaxing and less chaotic than the inside of the house. And lately, it has not been that at all. So time for a change up. So another big thing we have coming up this month, actually next month, starting on June 4th, is the Eternal Love Quilt Along. So this is a really simple quilt. It's a mother and child goddess quilt. She has nice big blue hair, and she's holding her little baby, and it's 33 pieces that we will cut and fuse together with fusible applique. And yeah, this is the actual quilt that I have put together. I've made 2 videos so far. It's going to be a total of 5 videos that we will follow along together in June and then the first week of July. So I'm really excited about this. And we had this exact set of fabrics cut in kits, and those kits sold out in one day. And that was amazing. That's never happened before. So that made me feel great. I then did rush off to go see if I could get more of these fabrics, and unfortunately, many of them were out of stock until the middle of the summer, way after we would finish the whole project. So what I did was source alternative colors. She's still going to have blue hair. The main change is going to be the background, which is no longer going to be this kind of mottled color. It's going to go to a pink, which is the most dominant color, I feel like, of this batik fabric. And then her shirt color is, instead of going, it's kind of a it's a batik, but it's like a batik print. It's got like a swirly pattern in it. That's going to go into just a regular hand dye. It's going to just have a mottled appearance. So the colors are going to slightly change. We've noted that on the page. If you want to check it out, it's leahday.com/lovekit. If you want to check it out, the colors are slightly changing, but we'll have about 60 more kits or so. So that's available as a pre-order. We should be getting the fabric in by the end of the week, and they will be shipping out too. So you'll have the fabric before we begin this quilt along on June 4th. So I hope you'll join in the fun. This is my very first goddess quilt along where I have the whole thing planned out and a pattern written and exact templates and pieces and all that good stuff. We did another quilt along with the goddess many years ago, and I really just wasn't ready to share something at that level. A pattern, they are a little bit more complex. They just take a little bit more planning and design to write and share. And that was the Express Your Love Goddess. And I just didn't have the skill yet. That was 2013. And I'm happy to say in 5 years, my writing skills and my teaching skills online have improved. And that's just how life goes, you know? Sometimes we're not ready for something. And I am just really excited about sharing this beautiful Eternal Love Goddess quilt. And you can find the pattern. The pattern is sold separately from the quilt kit. You can find that at leahday.com/eternallove. So come and check that out. And we're going to be making that together next month. So yeah, I'm just cleaning up the crafty cottage, kind of digging through all of these piles. I had a lot of things where I was practicing and playing on the long arm and making a lot of ugly stitches on the long arm and basically making a lot of quilt sandwiches. And then I thought, okay, well, I can bring it out here and do more quilting on it, kind of play and practice with the Eversewn machine, and then turn it into something else, like a little purse or a pouch, zippy pouch, that kind of thing. And been playing around with that idea. Just still, it takes a lot longer than you think to, you know, not just troubleshoot the pattern and figure out the steps, but then also write the pattern, plan the size. And I'm very much the type of person that I want it to have a purpose. I don't necessarily want to just make a bag to make a bag to make a bag. I need to have a reason that I'm making this, if that makes sense. And so I'm looking at, okay, well, what am I needing? I'm needing a new cosmetic bag for whenever we go on little trips. And so that was the goal. But I'm like, all right, well, now that I've made this and it's fully lined, it looks really cute. It's a cute little zippy pouch. You know, I'm like, all right, well, does this fit the need? And the answer was no. I'd also like a little see-through pouch on the side, so that way if I tuck something that I need access to, then I've got it. I like another little zip on the inside. I tend to go complicated. But, you know, if I want something to fit a purpose, and I want it to fit that specifically, even if it's just for me, you know, that's how it goes. So I want to play around with that. That's still, it feels like that is still unfinished, still needing some work. And yeah, I brought a lot of stuff out here with this, like, I guess, over expectation that I would have so much time to play with it, and then did not. So something else that has come to fruition this week is my Grace rulers. So this was still the original prototype, but we went back to the drawing board. Grace Company got a good laser cutter to be able to cut them out, and these will be hopefully coming out next week. So it is a slice ruler, mini slide and super slide, and the slide rulers have curves, and they're actually repeatable curves on both sides, so that way you can do some really creative things with them. The slice ruler is a, let's see, 20 degree, it's 20, you can actually cut a 20 petal Dresden plate with this. So that makes it 20 divided by 360, that makes it a 30 degree wedge. My head is hurting today, so I might not be getting that right. But basically you can take the slice template, it's a tumbler shape, so you can make tumblers out of it. You can use the straight line quilting, because I love straight line quilting with ruler foot quilting, it's great. But I also like my templates to do a little bit more than that. I like them to do a little bit more than just quilting. So you can also do a 20 petal Dresden plate. And this is like a prototype. The one that you actually make with this template is a little different, has an open hole in the center, but that kind of gives you an idea of what you can piece with that. And then with the curvy ones, this mini slide and super slide, you can cut curves on your quilt. You can use these as a template, as a guide for doing curvy binding to connect blocks, which I'll be sharing that in a tutorial soon too. So lots of fun things. And I'll be adding a ruler foot. I finally found a ruler foot that I really like for the Eversewn Sparrow 20. That's super exciting. No, I am not carrying every type of ruler foot under the sun, and I am not going to support every single type of sewing machine because that is just beyond the limit of what I can do. But I am going to support the Eversewn Sparrow 20, and all low shank sewing machines are compatible with that machine. So if you have a low shank machine, then this ruler foot will work for you too. So come and check that out next week. We should be getting those in, and and we'll be putting those up. That was something that I shared, a project that I was working on. Oh gosh, that was back in March, where I shared a really, really quick, I didn't actually share it. I just really quickly made a quilt in about 3 days for VDTA, for the show, to take with me. And then, everything always takes longer than you expect in manufacturing. Well, everything always takes longer than you expect in any form of, I think, creative work. It always takes double the length of time. So we were thinking, well, we'd maybe have those out and ready to go in April. Now, as you can see, it is the end of May. So yeah, it can take a lot longer than you think to have things come together and come to fruition. And you just have to be patient more than anything else. The lesson that I have learned over and over and over again is to not try and push things before they're ready, to let things come, kind of have their time to gestate and then be born, I guess is the best way of saying it. And that leads right into the biggest news and the most exciting, and that is I finished my round of editing on Mally the Maker. I'm so happy. This is such a big deal. So wrote the book, finished it in March, and then handed it off to Josh. He had that first round of edits pretty much within a week, and then I have been kind of stuck and mucking around with it ever since. And the main thing was, what Josh was looking for is he was looking for continuity issues and, does the scene make sense? And, is this well established? Can you see that scene really well? Or is Mally all of a sudden walking when she was sitting down? Just things like that can pull you out of the book. When you're reading a book and, someone's driving down the road in a truck and then all of a sudden it's a car, it can pull you out of the book, all those little inconsistencies and stuff. And then also making sure that the book works, that you're getting that payoff, that feeling. And I'm so happy with it. Like, it's yesterday when I finished that round of edits, lots of fist pumps going through the air. But I basically put myself in jail because it was really taking a lot of time. I got really stuck in chapter 9 and had to make some major changes, which then kind of cascaded into more changes and more changes and more changes, and kind of meshing the what I had changed with what I hadn't changed, kind of meshing that together. It can be tough. So I finally got things working and then said, all right, unless it's something drastic, it doesn't need to majorly change. And really, the last quarter of the book, I would say, my writing had improved. I had gotten better at writing. I'd gotten faster at writing. The difference between the beginning of the book and the end of the book, my writing, that's 6 months basically of writing skill that had adjusted and changed over that length of time. So yeah, a lot less to change in the last 4 chapters of the book. Flew through it, had a ball over the weekend, and then, I hit save and printed it out for Josh again, and now it's on his plate, not on mine, and that feels good too. So this morning, I still woke up early. How I have written Mally the Maker, I don't have whole days where I can just sit and write, and have that wonderful writing lifestyle where that's all I do. I'm fitting this in between my already pretty cram-packed life, and that is, filming tutorials and managing the site and writing blog posts and the whole 9 yards of that. So really, writing this fiction novel has been like adding an extra little mini job or an extra mini little business to my already pretty full plate. And how I've managed it is by waking up about an hour, hour and a half early every day and getting that writing time in the morning before Josh gets out of bed, before Dad comes in to work. So yeah, I still got up early, even though I didn't have a book to edit or a book to write. I still got up early today and I started working on the artwork. And this has been the part that I've been most excited about. I've been really anticipating this section and wanting to get to it for a while. And so I already had lots and lots of ideas kind of built up as to what I was going to be doing, what that's going to look like. And then, just drawing things out. And then I started listening to videos and podcasts about cover art design. And I feel like we live in such an amazing world. Like, if you want to learn how to do something, if you want to make something, if you want to write a book and publish it, if you want to design your own cover art, you can find multiple sources of information to guide you through how to do that and how to do it all by yourself. And I just feel like that's so incredible, and we're so lucky to have that resource. And so, yeah, I just started watching different videos and seeing, different professional cover artists and how they do their thing. And then I've also been looking at books, and there's really not books that are super similar to this, because it is really quilt fiction, but it's not standard quilt fiction, which is about, some ladies in a quilt shop or some ladies in a quilting retreat center. I love the Elm Creek quilt books, but that's not what Mally the Maker is. This is very much an adventure novel, fantasy story about a little girl that goes inside of a quilt. So it's a little different, but I'm still going to probably take my cues from the cover art. Very simplistic design, probably just going to be a quilt block, and I'm thinking it's probably going to be a coronation quilt block, because the name of the book is The Queen Inside the Quilt, and that's the subtitles, Mally the Maker, The Queen Inside the Quilt. So I'm thinking the coronation quilt block that I planned to be in the book. And that's the thing, I've done a lot of block research for this book, a lot more than I've ever done before. And I've had such a great time. And I gotta say, hats off to Jenny Beyer and her Quilter's Album book. That's where I got pretty much all of the designs that I pulled out. These are all historical quilt blocks that I've described in the book, that I've used in the book, that have become characters in the book. I don't want to give too much away. I'm so excited about this. So yeah, I'm going to plan out the cover art and be playing with that. I might come up with a couple different covers and then have you guys vote on your favorite. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. And then early readers, just in case you have signed up to be an early reader and you're wondering where the copy of the book is, Josh is going to finish this round of edits. I'm going to go through it one more time, and then it will be off to you. And yes, early readers, the people that signed up for that, that's pretty much closed. We have enough at this point that I'm happy with it. But future books, if you'd like to be an early reader for future books, just let me know and I'll add you to the list. So that was huge. That was a big weight off my back, and I feel so great about it. There are parts of this book that I don't care how many times I read it, it's always going to make me cry, I think. It has a definite emotional payoff, at least for me. I don't know if that's going to translate to anybody else, but that's really, really exciting. And then there's so many other things to design. I cannot wait to dig into doll design and make Mally and Miss Bunny and Patch. It's like a cat. Want to do some fabric design. There's just, at this point now I'm going, okay, what else can I make? Because that's really everything in the book that I described can be now made, really made in real life. The quilt can be made, the blocks can be made, the dolls can be made of the characters, that whole 9 yards. And that's really exciting too. As I've been planning this and designing this, it has been really with the intention of, I'm not just writing a book to write a book. I'm writing a book really because I want this story to be told, and I also really want to create a whole new generation of quilters. and I don't think that kids are going to immediately find this book, but I think if grandmas hand the book over to their kids, then they're going to love it. But really, I've written it for quilters. There's a lot of quilty, Easter eggs and stuff in it, but it can also work for kids too. So it's kind of serving multiple purposes, all in one go. And James is excited about it, which is really funny because he's not really, he's like, oh, Mom, why are you writing about a little girl? And, it's like, well, James, Mally, I think, she needs to be a little girl. But even he's interested in it. So that's been really fun too. And it was nice because I started it, Mally is 10 in the book and James is 11. So I could kind of see, his little mannerisms and stuff like that and kind of pull a little bit of that and put that into Mally, and that was good too. So I am feeling great about that book and so happy about the process. I started writing in October and then had the text finished in March, and then now have wrapped it up before James got out of school for this year. So that is going to be my pattern. That's the way I want to establish and do this for multiple series, for all the books in the series, basically. So that's going to be my goal, to start the next book, to start the sequel in October, write all through the winter, and then have basically the raw tags, the first draft done, hopefully before Easter, and then be able to get into editing and then have the next book being finished up before James gets out of school every year. And I think if that becomes a little routine in our lives, that it'll be really interesting to see how that goes. And I'm basing that idea off of Lee Child, and he is the author of the Jack Reacher series. So basically what he does is he starts in the fall, has an idea for a new book, writes that new book, and hands it off to his editors, and they do their magic and have the book come out. And then he takes a break, and he if that's 6 months of space where he doesn't but before the next fall, then he just takes that time off to kind of let more ideas come into his head and let more things generate. Might go on trips or doing something like that. And then come the fall, he's ready to start the next book and has a new creative idea for where it's going to go. And I kind of already have an idea for where I want Mally to go in the next book. I already know kind of what that plot's going to look like. I also have ideas for a prequel book that's more about Grandma and her story, but that's going to come later. That'll probably be around after book 3 comes out, about Mally. I want to stay focused on Mally. She's the main character. She's the hero. And then I'll kind of back up and tell Grandma's story in a later book. So yeah, this feels big. This feels awesome. And I can't wait. I can't wait to be getting it into the hands of everyone in the world. And I'm also planning out that as far as how we'll release it and all that good stuff. So we'll probably do another pre-order. We'll probably do signed copies again. It was a little crazy to do that in November. So I'm hoping that we'll have this book coming out before anywhere near the Christmas season, but we'll just have to wait and see. So yeah, that's the big giant update about Mally the Maker. And I actually have another update about another book, and this is really exciting. So I took one of my books a couple years ago, 365 Free Motion Quilting Designs, and I had been printing that book myself, which is pretty costly and expensive, and just, I didn't want to do another print run of it, basically. And so I contacted C&T Publishing, which is a quilting and craft book publisher, and said, hey guys, would you like to have the rights to publish it? I had already paid for the layout and the editing and all that good stuff. So basically we had a finished book. They did not have to do anything to it other than put their ISBN on the back and change the copyright information. So yeah, that is technically a hybrid book, meaning that I still own the rights to the book. If C&T ever decides to stop printing it, then I retain those rights and I can print it again if I want to. That's really a great option to go in if you are thinking about writing a quilt book, because retaining your rights means that that book can never go out of print. You can decide if it goes out of print or not. You can keep it going forever if you want. But sharing that with C&T also enabled me to potentially create other products with it. And so we were talking through, all of these images, basically 365 beautiful free motion quilting images. That struck me as that could easily be a planner or a calendar, something cool like that. And they were already looking into a calendar. So I don't actually have a physical copy of what it's going to look like, but it's basically going to be a perpetual calendar, meaning that no matter what year it is, it still works because it doesn't have the day of the week on it. So it'll just say like January 1st, January 2nd, that kind of thing. And for every day, you'll have a little square to look at. And so that's going to be super, super sweet. And that is going to hopefully be coming out this summer. I don't have an exact date on shipment, but as soon as I do, we'll start a pre-order for that as well. And so you could have a little mini calendar. It'll probably be about this big. You can set it next to your sewing machine, flip over a new day, and be able to stitch along and do one design per day for a year. And that would be a great free motion quilting challenge. That would be a great way to build some skill really, really quickly. So I'm excited about that. It's really just a matter of starting conversations more than anything else. And that conversation with CNT, I really feel like this is going to be a great product. I'm really excited about having the calendar myself. That's the thing. I never want to make something, or publish a book unless I want to actually have it myself. And I would certainly use this. I'm really looking forward to having a little 365 free motion quilting design calendar on my desk. And I'm really excited about that. So I hope you are too. And I will definitely be sharing updates about that as it comes through, and that is one thing I would say, just being completely honest. With Mally the Maker, I have the cover art. I can share any image that I want. I can show you the text that I was drawing today, and I can show you the drawing that I was drawing today, and all of this good stuff. Working with a publisher, I have less access to those things. I don't even have a print copy to show you right this second, and that can be frustrating. It's I think one of the limitations of working with a publisher, but the benefits sometimes outweigh the downsides. I don't think I'd be able to make this calendar without CNT. So I'm really happy to have that partnership, and I can't wait to tell you more about that calendar. And as soon as it's coming out, I'll let you know. And now finally, I want to finish up just by talking about goals and my word for the year challenge. So how this weaves into this episode, I hope you can see just how many different things that we have going on. Rulers and working with Grace Company and CNT and this calendar plus Mally the Maker and this book and, adding new products to our shop like the Eversewn machines. And I'm going to be also adding long arms. We are dealers now for Grace Company. So you can also get a long arm and a long arm frame or a sit down long arm if that's what you're needing from us as well. So doing all of these things, and it can be overwhelming. It's a lot of change happening really, really quickly. My word for the year is challenge. So my goal with all of this has been continually to just figure out how to make everything fit and to not get overwhelmed. And I've pulled back on certain things. I've, kind of had to force myself to take a break on certain things, and definitely saying no to certain things as well. One thing we're going to transition to in the next 2 weeks is I'm going to pause, not stop, but pause interviews with other quilters, mostly because in the summer months, it's really hard to find a quiet moment when, the house is silent, because I've got an extra person in the house with James when he's out of school for the summer. And then 2, I'm looking at, okay, I have a goal. I want to get my goddess quilts back up on my website and describe them better and have pretty photos, and how can I make that happen? So that's a goal that I have. And then I've got this podcast that I love doing every week. And I thought, well, how can I kind of bring those 2 things together so that one will help the other? So coming up this summer, what I'm going to do is every other week, if I have a great quilting debate, then that will be what we alternate with. We'll have a great quilting debate, and then we'll have basically like a quilt story, like a quilt, almost, yeah, I think quilt story is really the best way to describe it. I'll pull out one of the quilts, I'll hang it up behind me, I'll really shoot some nice close-ups so you can see the detail on it, and then talk about why I made it, what was the story, what was I working through, what was the process of making it, because some of these quilts, they look amazing, but they were really hard to make, and share that journey of creating them and then all that I learned in the process. And the reason why I want to do that is because it helps me accomplish the goal of getting that back on my website. And it's been years since my website kind of got a little discombobulated and I haven't had a chance to fix it. So this is a way of kind of combining two different goals that weren't going to happen separately. By bringing it together, it will. So part of using this word challenge this year has been figuring out things like that, has been saying, okay, here's my goal, here's what I want, how do I make that happen? And it's also been a little bit of a process of saying, okay, this is what I'm focusing on, this is what I'm doing, what am I going to have to say no to? Because for everything that I say yes to, something else has to be turned down. You cannot do it all. I cannot do it all. It's just not going to happen. Even with help, even with Josh, even with Dad, we've got an awesome little efficient team, but even with all of that, we still have to maintain a very clear focus on what we're doing, on what we're working on. And I think this absolutely translates into your quilting as a hobby. If you've got a big giant mess in your sewing room all around your sewing machine, it just makes it absolutely no fun to go and try and make anything because it's just too messy. And then two, if you have 17 different projects all piled up, what do you work on? What is the priority? I've been really enjoying that. The book that I was reading about priorities and focusing on one thing, it was called Essentialism. And basically, priorities was never a word until the 19th century because it's really should be priority, which means one thing, only one thing. If you've got 17 quilt projects pulled out, reduce it down to just one. While I've been out here, I've been kind of pushing everything back towards the door because all I want out in the crafty cottage is the Eternal Love quilt. This is all I'm working on right now. This is the only quilt that should be out here with me. All of the rest of the stuff needs to go back in the house, right? So having one single goal, one single priority that is the focus and the only thing on your mind. Now, as you can tell, that's not really possible for me. I have 3 or 4 different things going on at any given time. How I try and compartmentalize that is, like Mally the Maker, I would work on that from about 7 a.m. until 8:30, hour and a half every single day. On the weekends, I would sometimes get a little bit more time where I'd wake up early, have my cup of coffee while I was working on the book, and then the guys might not be up and moving around until like 10, so I might get a few extra hours on the weekend. But really, that was just tucked into that little bit of time. But that little bit of time every single day really does add up. So if you can take, let's say you have time to quilt right after you get home from work. You sit down and you give yourself 15 minutes to work on that quilt. You're going to get it done in small degrees, a little bit every day. If you have to wait until you have a 6-hour time block, you're waiting for the weekend. Well, then what if you're busy that weekend? I had a birthday party I had to take James to this weekend. It's like your weekends can become unreliable. So this is not necessarily something that you can depend on as the time to finish that project. But if you know that you have that quiet space of time every single morning and everybody else is asleep and it's uninterrupted time, then you can bank on that, even if it's just a little sliver of time. Working with other companies can get complicated because everybody has a different deadline and everybody needs things at a different time. So whenever something like that comes up, I really try and just block out a whole day, figure out what needs to be done and make that happen. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, Sometimes I feel a little frazzled. And pushed in a million different directions at once. That's a sign that I need to pull back and clean up and get focused and figure out what the priority is and go from there again. And I don't think that there's ever going to be a perfect moment when I only have one thing going on and that's it. That's just not realistic. There's just always just a lot of different irons in the fire, right? And that is because we have to work far in advance in order for, to take time with things like manufacturing and planning and design to then, refine all of those things so that then things can come out in a timely fashion. So, even when it comes down to pattern design, I want to make a zipper pouch, right? Made a prototype. I like it well enough, but it's not there yet. So I need the time to go sit down and go, okay, well, what do I not like about it? How much bigger does it need to be? How much smaller does it need to be? Where do I need those extra pouches, or where do I need that extra zipper, or whatever? And take that time to really dig into it and answer those questions. I think design, for me at least, is a series of asking questions and answering them. That's all it is. And making a quilt is also a series of asking questions. How do I put this together? What size is it? How does it get pieced? And then how do I quilt it? How do I finish it? All that good stuff. But nothing happens in a day. No challenge will ever be met, in a single day. And part of my challenge is keeping that in my head, is remembering that I don't have to finish it all right this second, that I have time. And also that I don't have to be so precious about it. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Something that has psyched me out about sharing the Goddess quilt for a long time was the blanket stitching, the edge stitching that goes around the fusible applique. And it sounds so silly that would stick me in place for so long, but I was really obsessing about it. Should I do blanket stitching or should I do zigzag stitching? I've decided to do zigzag stitching. Should I do it as a quilt top or should I do it as a basted quilt? I've decided to do it as a basted quilt because it saves time. It saves the step of having to outline quilt separately. I can zigzag and basically the outline stitching is done too. Things can get you stuck. Weird, silly things. Oh my gosh, I don't like that backing fabric now. Well, then go buy yourself some more backing fabric, Oh my gosh, that thread color is going to show on the back. Well, pick another thread color and go get another backing fabric. It's as simple as that. But these things can get us stuck in place and then we stop moving forward. And I think that is ultimately the thing I've learned the most, is that so long as I'm moving forward, even in tiny little steps, even if it's super, super slow, just that 1 hour a day, at least I'm taking a step forward. And one last thing about this whole thing, never stop. So it's so easy to stop. I mean, there were times, Valley the Maker, that was just like, it would be so much easier to go write another quilting book. It would be so much easier to go write nonfiction, explore free motion quilting with Leah Day, which I am planning on writing soon too. Why don't I just go start that? And it's so easy to, when things get tough, to set everything aside and go for that easy option. The easy cookie. Grab the easy cookie. But there's another way of looking at it. If you do have to set things aside, if you do have to take a break, you're not stopping. You've hit pause. Okay? So the pause button on your television, on your computer, anywhere, pause is temporary. You can always come back. And then what do you hit to keep on going? Play. You just hit play and you can keep on going exactly where you left off, right? When you hit stop, stop implies a definite end. Cha-chunk. Done. I've stopped in my tracks. I've quit. I've given up. I'm not doing it anymore. Stopping mentally is not a good thing. And physically, when you stop something, the idea of starting again, it sounds like drudgery. Oh my gosh, I gotta go pull out this stuff and I gotta go dig up that thing and I've gotta go, it's like everything feels spread apart, or everything feels stuck, everything feels sludgy, right? But when you hit pause, it's just right there. It's just so simple. You just hit play and you can keep on going. And it's light and fluffy and easy, and it doesn't feel stuck and drudgery and all those things that are bad, right? So maybe if you are feeling stuck on a project, go back to what got you stuck, number one, and figure out what was going on. But then also go back to that moment and think, no, I didn't stop. I just hit pause. This was just a pause, for Christmas, or this was just a pause for the spring, or this was just a pause so I could, recover from that surgery, or whatever it was. This was just a pause. This was not a stop. Reframe it in your head if you have to, make it right, and then hit play so you can continue. At any given time, I could have set Melly the Maker aside and never finished it. I had the original idea for this book back when James was in kindergarten. He's going into 5th grade. So it took me 4 years to get my act together and to stop stopping and starting, because I started the book several times, and it took a little bit of growth and development, learning more about writing fiction. It took learning more about the writing process and plotting. I basically designed this book the way I write or design my quilt patterns, meaning that I plotted and planned it out to a T before I wrote the first word. So, there were a lot of stops and starts before I really got serious about it. But when I finally sat down, butt in chair, to begin writing, I was not going to stop until it was finished. And then now I have not stopped until it's done editing. And then now, at this stage, I am not going to stop until it is ready to be published. And we have everything ready to go. We have cover art and the interior designed and all that good stuff. So it is definitely a process to do anything, whether you are writing a book or making a quilt, or making a hat. It doesn't matter what you're making. There is a process, and it's going to take double the amount of time that you think straight out of the gate. It always takes longer than you think to do anything. And that's okay, because that's the process. And it can be fun. The whole thing can be fun if you go into it accepting the work and effort involved. And then also, if you need a break, if you need to stop, if you need to, walk away for a little while, just hit pause and then come back and play when it's going to be fun. So that's it for today. That really helped me clean up my crafty cottage. And then this is what I'm really thinking about right now when I'm moving and grooving on. I feel like there's another word that's kind of creeping up on me, and it kind of popped in my head the other day. And this is kind of about the time that I usually get a second word for the year. And it was flourish, which feels like such an amazing, positive, happy word. And I love that. So challenge and flourish. I don't think you can have one without the other. And I have certainly accepted the challenges of my life this spring. It has not been easy. There have been some pretty tough days, pretty tough weeks, pretty tough times in general. But overall, I am feeling so very happy and so very grateful for this life that I build on a continual basis. And it really is a matter of building the life that you want. It doesn't just happen. I didn't just step into this. I knew what I wanted. I wrote it down and I set an intention to make it happen. And I continue to do that every day. And that's how it's done. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode and you learned something new. If you would like to join in with the Eternal Love Goddess Quilt Along, you can check it out at leahday.com/eternal love. You can find the quilt pattern there. You can find links to the kit. The kit is sold separately. And as I said, fabrics are going to change just a tiny bit, but it's still going to make a gorgeous quilt. So I hope that you will be planning to join in the fun and make eternal love with me this year. And don't forget to use the coupon code PODCAST to save 10% on your order. So that's it for this week. Until next time, let's go quilt.